Okay, so now that we can switch animations using our directional animation set logic, we just want to add extra animations for walk and then animations for the swing animations. So this should be more straightforward since we already have the hard logic created. Let's exit play mode, and I'm going to create new animation clips for our gatherer character. So I'm going to go to the animation window, click on gatherer in our hierarchy, click on the drop down for animations, and let's create a new clip. So this is going to be gatherer walk right, I guess. It's fine to start like that. So for samples, I'll put 10. This is more relevant now because we're actually going to have multiple frames of animation. So how I like to do it is basically I'll just have one keyframe for each point in time I want to change the character's animation. So if I want to have 10 frames per second, then samples of 10 can make sense there if you would intentionally be changing it 10 times per second. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that, though. You can add more samples if you want. So with the art, I'm going to go to Gatherer's Exterior Characters, and let's grab all 4 of the Gatherer Walk Right frames. So you can hold Shift down, and then you can select them all. So left click, hold Shift, click on the 3, and you'll get all 4 of the ones selected in between them. Then just drag them up here to the animated window. And because we have 10 samples, they're going to be at those 100 millisecond intervals by default. So if I hit play, you can see we have our walk animation. Now that might actually be kind of fast for this character, so I can change this to 5, and you'll see that it slows down correspondingly. One way to make it slower, but not the only way, of course. And that's the more of the appropriate walk speed. So if we go to Assets, Characters Gatherer, we want to find that animation, click on it, go to the inspector, make sure that looping is turned on. Walking should be a looping animation. Later, when you have the swing animations, you'll definitely want looping to be turned off. So to make things a little bit quicker, I'll just click on Gatherer Walk Right, Control C to copy, and then deselect it, Control V to paste, and I'll do that 3 times. So we'll take Gatherer Walk Right, and we'll do Gatherer Walk Left, and then we need to find the animation frame. So in the art pack, go to the characters folder, and then we have the walk left frames. So I'll select all of these, drag them into the window up here. You might need to select the gatherer in the hierarchy, and then select the gatherer walk left. Oh, hold on. For some reason, that's showing the idle animation. So, when you do things this way, it's not added to the animator. That's why it won't show up here. So we have to click on animator. Sorry about this. And then you go to characters gatherer, and we want to drag in these new animations. But first, you should name them properly, or else it won't change the proper animation later. So let's change this to gatherer walk up, and then click here, gatherer walk down. And now we can add in left, up, and down to the list of animations that exist for our character. Kind of like that. Organize and snap it how you wish. As long as it's clearly identifiable, it should be easy. I'll actually kind of try to match them here. So 3 columns for 3 different animation sets. And we can match up to up, down to down, right to right. That looks pretty good. Okay, now when you click on Gatherer and you click on the menu, you'll see those new animations pop up. So we want Gatherer walk left, and then we get the frames from the art pack. Walk left 0 to walk left 3. Select them all, drag them in there, and make sure that the first one snaps to the 0 second, 0 frame position. If you want to test it, go to Scene View and hit play, and you can see that animation. So just do the same thing for, let's see, walk down and then walk up. So select the 4 frames, drag them in here, hit play to test. Okay, now let's change to walk up. Select the 4 frames, drag them in here, hit play. And yep, that's pretty much it for the walk animations. So we can also do the swing animations at the same time here. So let's create a new clip, and I'll call this Gatherer Swing Down for the first one. We'll set the samples to 5 at least for now. That might change later. And we need to get those swing animations. So Gatherer Swing Down as a sprite sheet. I'll select all the frames, drag them in here, hit play to test, and there's our swing down animation. So we can also create the new clips inside of the animation window. So this will automatically add them to the animated window. So this might actually be preferable as a way to do things. So gatherer swing right, set the samples to 5, grab the 3 frames of animation and drag them in here. And then we want to create a new clip, gatherer swing up, samples to 5, grab the frames of animation, drag them in here, hit play to test, and we'll do it one more time for gatherer swing left. So gatherer swing left. Once again, we grab the frames of animation, drag them in here, change samples to 5, make sure they're at the 0, 0, 0, 1, and 0, 2 frame positions. You can hit play to test and just make sure it's swinging properly. So if we check the animator, we should see all of the animations here. Feel free to line them up nicely if that helps you out. But generally, we're not really going to be doing much in this animator window because, once again, the logic is actually just determined through code. This is just kind of like placeholders where we change the clip. Okay, so now let's take a look at our character. In the inspector, we can see that we only have one spot for the directional animation set of idle. So we need to add the other animation states to the player controller script. So if we go into player controller, let's go up here to the top. I'm just going to copy paste this, the whole field serialize public animation set idle. And we're just going to change this one to walk. And then we're going to change it to swing. Okay, if we go back to Unity, we should see those fields in the inspector. So I can't remember if I actually created them. Let's do walk. We have not yet. Okay, so in the characters prefab folder, let's duplicate the gatherer idle, or you can right click and do create gatherer top-down RPG and just create a new one. I'll just Control V, paste it in, and let's do walk here, and then Control C, Control V, paste it in, and we're going to do swing. So because the names are pretty consistent with the animation clips, it makes it pretty easy to find where those animations are in the list here. So just once again, swing down goes to down, and so on and so forth. So swing up goes at the top here, swing left goes to left, swing right goes to right, and that set of animations is now set up. So let's do gatherer walk. Same thing, down to down, left to left, right to right, and up to up here. And now, if we click on our character and the hierarchy, so once again, editing the prefab so it changes everywhere, then we can set our animation sets here. So set the walk, set the swing, and our character now has the animations. So the last thing we need to do for those animations to play properly is just add a little more logic to our player controller. So for our player controller to go along with these different animations, we want to have some kind of logic, which can help us determine whether we should be switching to idle, walk, or swing animations. And then the character should also be behaving differently during those different animations. So for instance, during the swing animation, maybe we make it so the player can't move, and we lock out other animations from being able to be switched to. So we can do that by creating a script that manages a state, maybe has a few different settings like can move during the state or not, and then we change the state in the player controller script and assign the animation correspondingly. So how I'll set this up is that we'll change it so that we have a dictionary that takes a state and assigns it to specific animations for each character, rather than setting the animation set on the state directly. And then that'll mean that different characters can share the same state without sharing the same animation frames. So let's create a new script to manage our states. So I'll create a new C# script, and I think we could just call it character state, I suppose. I'll double click into here, and let's have a scriptable object. Remove this stuff. For right now, I'll just put in the field serialized field, and this will be a public boolean can move get set, and a state by default I think should be set to true here. So we'll just make that the default value. Okay, so it's a mostly empty scriptable object, but this will be useful for us. So let's go back out to Unity, and we need to create an asset menu for this as well. So create asset menu, file name, character state, and then menu name is going to be equal to, let's see, gatherer top-down RPG / character state. Okay, and now we can create some states. So let's go back out to our project. In the characters folder, I think I'll just create a new folder inside of here, and I'll call this states. And then we'll double click in here, right click, create gather top-down RPG character state. So I want to call these something that's kind of corresponding with the animation to be played. So I'll call this first one state idle. Let's copy paste it, and I'll call this state walk, and Control V state, let's see, swing or attack or whatever you want to call it. Or maybe this should be state use, since that's what we're calling the action. So maybe that's what the state should be called too. Okay, so with the use state, I want to turn off can move. So for idle and walk, we'll be able to move, but for the use state, we will not be able to. The other thing I want to put in the character state, let's see, should be whether it can switch out while an animation is being played. So field serialized field, public bool, can exit while playing. Let's do get set, and this will default to true as well. But let's go back out here, and for use, I want to turn that off. So this will mean that until the animation finishes playing, we can't exit a use state. But for state walk and state idle, we can move and we can switch to other states while the animations are playing. So now back on our gatherer, let's go to the player controller, edit this. But it might look a little weird for right now, but I'm actually going to change these into character states. So character state idle, character state walk, and character state swing, which means we're going to get a problem with setting our current state to the idle animation here. So what we want to do is take these character states and assign the animation based on what state we're actually in. And in order to have that key value pair reference, dictionaries are a good way to do that, but dictionaries aren't serialized inside of Unity by default. So there's a good plugin we can use and just download and bring straight into our project called Unity Serializable Dictionary. It's MIT licensed, so it's free for you to use across any project. And this will allow us to assign a key to a value in the inspector. So the key is going to be the state, and the value is going to be the animation set that we want to play. So let's go ahead and grab this. I'm just going to download the zip, and I'm going to bring it into our project. So let's create a folder for it. In scripts, I'll just right click, create folder. I'll call it plugins. And then from 7-zip or whatever tool you're using, we can just extract this straight into there. So now with Unity Serializable Dictionary, we can use the code inside of that in order to do what we need. So inside of here, I'm going to make another serialized field for our dictionary. And let's call it a public serializable dictionary. Let's see, what's the class we want? Yeah, serializable dictionary of a type. And the type is the key and the value. So the key is character state, and the value is going to be animation clip. So I can call this property, let's say state animations, and then get private set. Okay. And if we go to Unity now, what you're going to see in the inspector, after it compiles, let's make sure there's no errors. So let's go to Window Console, pull this over here. Okay. So it's because this error is still there. So I'm going to comment that out for a second, just so we can get things to compile. And as you can see, idle, walk, and swing now expect a character state. And there's the state animations dictionary down here with nothing in it. You can expand it, and there's a plus button to add entries, which we want to do. And you can see you can take a character state and an animation clip. So first we have to set up the character states. So select idle, and then we'll select walk. And for swing, I'm going to select use. We're going to change that to be the use state in our script as well. So for state animations, take idle. So state idle, whenever we're playing state idle, we want to assign the animation set here. So not animation clip, but actually the directional animation set should be the value. So let's go back into the script and just change a couple things real quick. So animation clip is actually directional animation set, because we're doing 4 directional animations, not just one animation per state. And then for swing, I'm going to rename this to use. So if we go back out, okay, then now we can set the use state to be use as the state. And then state animations, we want the directional animation set of idle. Add a new entry, and then we'll choose use. which is going to be assigned with the swing animations. We'll just rename that to be gather use, possibly. And then for state walk, we want to use the gatherer walk animations. If you want, then go to the characters gatherer, and you can rename the gatherer swing set to gatherer use, to be gatherer use, if that makes more sense for the game. Okay. Basically, I think we kind of have it set up here. So we have the state scriptable objects set up. We have the state animations linked up, and we just need to use all of that in the code. In our code, we're no longer going to be setting the current set, but the current state. So let's change this to be character state here as well. And when we start the script, we're going to be setting it to idle still. But we're talking about the character state idle, not the animations idle. And we also need to rename this. So current state, Control V, copy, paste, fix that. So before, in order to get the correct facing clip, all we needed to do was access the directional animation set that's currently set up there. But now we're going through a character state in order to get that directional animation set. So we need to access the dictionary to get the set, and then from the set, we get the facing clip depending on the facing direction. So we could create a function in order to get the correct animation clip based on the facing direction and the state we pass in. So let's create that function, and it will be private animation clip, and we could call the function something like get state facing clip. And we could call the function something like get facing clip from state. We can rename that later to something a little more elegant. And this is going to need the character state we want to check for the animation set. So character state, and then we want the vector2 facing direction. And then let's come inside of here. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to get the directional animation set from the dictionary. So from the dictionary, we want to try using the key to get the value. And if it actually finds the value of the directional animation set, then we can get the clip from it. Otherwise, we're going to probably return an error. So let's start by checking if it actually has the value inside of it. So state animations as the property dot try get value, and we're going to use the character state as the key to get the value, and then we out this to a directional animation set, which is going to be animation set. Okay, so this function returns a Boolean. So if that is true, then we can come in here for the valid case of being able to actually get the final animation clip. Otherwise, we can debug log error and say, I'll add the $sign there in case we need some kind of variable name or something here. And we'll say character state and squiggly for character state dot name is not valid in the state animations dictionary. And actually, instead of saying not valid, I should say is not found in the state animations dictionary. So in this case, that basically just means we haven't set up a key that corresponds to a value in state animations, so it fails to get the value of the animation set. Hopefully that makes sense. But if we do find that animation set, then we can return the facing direction. So we'll return animation set dot get facing clip with the facing direction, and that should be all we need there. Of course, if we don't do this, then we need to return null because it failed to return anything. Failed to find animation set and animation clip corresponding to the character state. Now, the reason I made their parameter for character state here is we may, for some reason, want to check for a clip that isn't the current state. So by having a option up here, you can check any state, even if it's not the current state. Okay, so, and now, anytime we want those clips, we just need to call this function. So instead of doing current set get facing clip, we'll just do here, get facing clip from state, and I will put in underscore current state, and the facing direction is underscore facing direction. So let's go back to Unity and hit play and just make sure everything still works. So if we hit play and we go up, down, left, right, a lot is happening behind the scenes. So we have these states, and we're assigning this state to our character. In this case, the only state we have actually being used yet is the idle state. And based on checking the dictionary for our idle state, we can get the directional animation set that corresponds with that state for our character. And then we just get the facing direction like we did before. So this whole dictionary's point is just so that you can reuse states across different characters, but each of those characters can have their own animation set up for that state. So in that way, you just have a lot more reusability across the different characters in your game, and you don't have to keep creating a idle state scriptable object for every single character that's unique to each character, because generally those characters are going to have the same kind of setup here. Being able to move, can exit while playing, but you could, of course, create an alternative idle state if you wanted, just with create, gathers top-down character state, and then that should work just fine for you. You can just have a different idle state for different characters if they do need to idle somehow in a different way. Okay, so lastly, it occurs to me that, this get facing clip from state part is something that really ties in pretty directly with the state animations dictionary here. So what we can do, and this will be to further make things more reusable and kind of separate our code a little bit, is to take this function out and this type of scriptable or serializable dictionary and create a new class from them, where if we need this function in a different character script, we can get the same thing going on. So let's create a new C# script for this. In C#, in the scripts part of our project, I'm going to right click, add a new item, C# script, and I will call this, what should we call this kind of dictionary? Character state animation dictionary? Character state animation set dictionary. Does that make sense? Maybe just state animation set dictionary is good enough. Okay, and then as a .cs file, let's add that to our project. Okay, so in player controller, we're going to grab this part over here to this, and we're going to make it so that this class extends from this. So this state animation set dictionary is just a instance of a serializable dictionary that has this as the key and this is the value. So let's take the class and make it public. I will remove the namespace for it now, though we may come back to that later. And then we want to add the function inside of here. So in player controller, I'm going to grab all of this bit right here, cut it out. Let's go to this dictionary class and I'll paste it in. So the only thing we need to do here is to get rid of this bit, state animations. The dictionary is the class object itself. So when we do try get value, we're already targeting this state animation set dictionary. And now let's go to player controller. And instead of a serializable dictionary of this type, we'll just paste the new class name in. And then state animations, we can do for expected clip, state animations dot get facing clip from state. Okay, let's see. Any errors here? Inaccessible due to protection level. Okay, so that's an easy fix. Just go back to the class and we'll make this function public. And now it can be used from other classes. So in player controller, we can do state animations.get facing clip from state. So this cleans up our player controller script quite a lot. And it also makes it so that we can reuse that function we wrote for any character that wants to use a state animation set dictionary. If we go back to Unity and we look at our player controller script, you'll notice that the dictionary has mysteriously vanished. So how we get it back is that we add at the top right above state animation set dictionary, serializable as a tag here. So with that, jumping into the Unity editor, we should see the state animations dictionary pops up here one more time. We do have to re-add in the references since technically the type of object has changed. So this is a new object we're setting fields in. So none character state, we just change that to idle, directional set idle. You know the drill, just add it in for all of them. Use gets use, and then add one more in. Walk is going to get walk. And then we can hit play. And it's working just like before, except now we just pulled the logic out to its own class, and once again just making our code a little bit better. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we're going to add in the logic for switching to the walk state. I promise it gets easier from here now that we've done all of the groundwork for these states.